She always sat on the park bench at 5 p.m., and I never knew why until it was too late. It's a funny thing, how some of the most important people in your life can be the ones you never speak to. I never knew her name, not for the longest time anyway. To me, she was just a fixture of my day, a quiet, gentle landmark in a world that was always moving too fast. For nearly a decade, she was a part of my afternoon routine, a constant in a life that was comfortable but felt unanchored. My name is Julian, and I'm 41 years old now. Back then, I was a 30-year-old man in a suit, a human cog in a big corporate machine. My life was all about efficiency. My mornings were a blur of emails and coffee, my afternoons a slow march toward the clock on the wall. I'd leave the office at 4:45 p.m. on the dot, every single weekday. My route home took me through a small, peaceful park, a green space nestled between towering glass buildings and noisy city streets. It was an escape, a little moment of quiet before the rush hour chaos. That's where I first saw her. She was a woman in her late 60s, I guessed, maybe 70. She had a kind face, a little tired around the eyes, but with a peaceful, almost serene expression. Her hair was a soft, silvery white, usually pulled back in a loose bun. She always wore a simple, well-worn coat and a scarf, no matter the weather. Her clothes were never new, but they were always clean and neat. And she always sat on the same bench, the one beneath the big oak tree, right at 5 p.m. The first time I saw her, I barely noticed. She was just another person in the park. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I started to notice her. My internal clock would tick over to 5 p.m., and I'd find myself looking for her. There she was. Always. She never had a book or a phone. She just sat there. She'd look at the children on the playground, a faint smile on her face. She'd watch the squirrels scamper up the trees. She'd look up at the sky, her gaze fixed on the clouds or the last rays of sunlight hitting the rooftops. She was always still, a statue of quiet observation. My life was all noise. My job was a symphony of ringing phones and frantic conversations. My home life, while good, had its own kind of chaos. My wife, Clara, she's 41, too, was a high school teacher, and her days were full of the energy and drama of teenagers. We loved our quiet evenings together, but even they were filled with talk of schedules and errands and bills. The only silence I ever truly experienced was in my head during my walk home through the park. And this woman, this stranger, became a part of that silence. I started to develop a quiet ritual with her. She never knew it, of course. I'd walk past her bench, and I'd slow my pace just a little. I'd turn my head, just slightly, to look at her. And every day, she'd be there. It became a silent reassurance. My day could have been terrible, a mess of deadlines and angry bosses, but seeing her, sitting there so calmly, made everything feel okay. It was like she was a symbol of peace. A reminder that no matter how crazy the world got, there was still this quiet, beautiful moment happening every single day. Over the years, I learned her subtle cues. In the summer, she would hold a small, worn fan. In the winter, her hands would be tucked inside a pair of simple leather gloves. On a warm day, she might have a tiny cup of coffee from the shop across the street. On a cool day, it would be a cup of tea. I wondered about her. Did she live in one of the apartments nearby? Was she waiting for someone? Was she meeting a friend? A family member? I always had a story for her in my head. Maybe she was an artist, and this was her time to observe the world. Maybe she was a retired librarian who just loved being surrounded by the quiet hum of a park. My mind would create these elaborate fictions for her, a small, creative escape from the spreadsheets and emails that made up my life. My routine with the woman at the bench continued for nearly 10 years. I watched my own life change. I got a promotion. My wife and I adopted a dog, a goofy golden retriever named Max. Our lives grew fuller, louder, more complicated. But the woman at the bench remained the same. She was my constant, my daily dose of quiet, my silent friend. My wife even started to notice. "Did you see the woman at the bench today?" She'd ask sometimes, as if she were a character in a television show we both watched. I'd just smile and say, yeah, she was there. Then, one Thursday, I left work right on time, just as I always did. The sky was a perfect blue, the sun was warm on my skin. It was a beautiful day. I was walking through the park, my eyes scanning for her bench, and my heart did a strange little skip. I saw the bench, but she wasn't on it. It was empty. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't right. I had never seen that bench empty at 5 p.m. I checked my watch again. 5:02 p.m. I walked past the bench, then turned around and walked past it again. I felt an unexpected wave of anxiety wash over me. I tried to tell myself she was just late. Maybe she had a doctor's appointment. Maybe she had to run an errand. I kept walking, but my walk was different. It felt off. The park didn't feel like a peaceful escape anymore. It felt empty. My internal rhythm was broken. The next day, she wasn't there either. Or the day after that. A week passed, then a second. My anxiety turned to genuine worry. I felt a profound sense of loss, a loss that I didn't even have the right to feel. After all, she was just a stranger. She didn't know I existed. She didn't know I had watched her for a decade. But to me, she was so much more than a stranger. She was a symbol of peace, a quiet part of my day that I had come to rely on. Her absence was a gaping hole. I couldn't shake it. My wife noticed. "What's wrong, honey?" she asked. "You seem distracted." I told her about the woman at the bench, about the decade of our silent ritual, about how much I missed her without ever having known her. My wife just listened, her face full of understanding. She knew. She had seen the way I'd mentioned her, the quiet happiness in my voice. A few more weeks went by, and the bench remained empty. I started taking a different route home, but it didn't help. The park felt haunted by her absence. I felt a powerful, undeniable need to know. I had to know what had happened to her. I had to know her story. I felt a sense of urgency, of deep regret. Why had I never just said hello? Why had I been so afraid to break the routine, to ruin the silence? I could have had a name to her face, a voice to her story. But now it was too late. One Saturday morning, I decided to do something I had never done before. I walked back to the park. I wasn't just walking past it this time. I was going in. I sat on her bench. The wood was a little cold. I sat there for an hour, just looking at the sky, at the children on the playground, at the squirrels. I was trying to see the world the way she saw it. My eyes fell on a small coffee shop on the corner, the one where she would sometimes get her tea. I got up, my heart pounding, and walked toward it. The owner was a man named Mr. Clark, who was in his early 70s. He had a kind face and a calm, quiet demeanor. I had seen him many times, but I had never spoken to him. I ordered a coffee, then just stood there, my hands wrapped around the warm cup. I finally worked up the courage to ask. "Excuse me," I said, my voice a little shaky. There was an old woman who used to sit on the park bench across the street. I think she sometimes came in here. Mr. Clark's face softened. "Oh, you mean Eleanor," he said. The sound of her name was a shock. It was so simple, so beautiful. It felt right. "Yes," I said, "Eleanor." I took a deep breath. I was just wondering, she hasn't been there for a while. "Is she okay?" Mr. Clark looked at me, a knowing look in his eyes. He must have seen me, too. He must have known about the man in the suit who always walked past. "Eleanor passed away a few weeks ago," he said, his voice quiet. "She had been sick for a while." It was peaceful. I just stood there, my heart sinking. I felt a wave of profound sadness. A woman I never knew, a woman who never knew me, was gone. And I had a name for my grief. I had a name for the loss. Her name was Eleanor. She was a wonderful person, Mr. Clark continued. She lived with her husband, George, in the apartment above my shop. He passed away a few years ago. You see, they used to come to the park together every day. He loved to sit on that bench. He said it was the best place to watch the world. They'd sit there for hours, just talking and watching. After he passed away, she just kept going. She'd come here every day at 5 p.m., get a cup of tea, and sit on that same bench. She said it was the only way she felt she could still be with him. He paused, a single tear running down his cheek. He wiped it away quickly. She told me once that the bench was their place. That every day, for that 1 hour, she felt like she was just sitting with him, holding his hand, watching the world together, just like they used to. She was waiting for him. Not for him to come back, but for that moment when their memories would feel real again. When she felt his presence beside her, my world went still. The noise, the chaos, the rush of my life, it all faded away. The story of her silence was the most profound one I had ever heard. It wasn't about a routine. It wasn't about a simple act. It was about love. It was about grief. It was about a quiet, beautiful dedication to a memory. She wasn't just sitting there. She was living. She was loving. She was grieving. She was healing. And she was doing it all in plain sight, with a simple, quiet dignity. I left the coffee shop, a little lost, a little heartbroken. I walked back to the bench. It looked different now. It was no longer just a piece of wood. It was a monument to a love story. A testament to a man named George and a woman named Eleanor. I sat down on it again. I wasn't just seeing a bench. I was seeing a lifetime of memories. I was seeing two people holding hands, two people watching the world together, two people who had found their peace right there, in that small, quiet space. The day I found out why she sat on that bench was the day I understood what it meant to really see people. I had watched her for a decade, but I had never truly seen her. I had seen a stranger. I had seen a part of my routine. I had seen a symbol of peace. But I had missed the most important part of her story. I had missed the reason she was there. Her quiet absence wasn't just a break in my routine. It was a wake-up call. It was a moment of profound sadness that led to a moment of beautiful understanding. I started walking a different route home. I started looking at people. I started seeing the stories in their faces. The young mother with a tired smile, the old man with a newspaper, the couple holding hands. I started to see the beautiful, human, quiet moments that were happening all around me. I had been so focused on my own little world that I had missed the magnificent, emotional world happening right under my nose. I still think about Eleanor. I still sit on that bench sometimes. I go there now, not to escape, but to remember. I remember the woman who taught me a lesson I will never forget. She taught me that the people who sit on the sidelines of our lives are often the ones with the most powerful stories. And that sometimes, all it takes is a moment of quiet, a single question, to find out the truth. Her life was a quiet masterpiece, and I had the honor of being a silent witness.